Yeah, I am ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. I won't ask you to say and spell your name.
Yeah.
So you said something yesterday when we were at the press conference that it's okay. Um, about all this is happening, but people are still dying in our city, and that's something we need to talk about. What do you want to say about that today?
Well, I think that when we look at the legacy of this moment, it has to be that we really change something. It has to be that we remember the lives lost along the way, including ones tragically lost to violent crime in our community, and say, how can we make our community different? How can we make it so that we have stronger relationships, we have trust between the police and particularly the black community, such that we can all share information, experiences, a city in a true way, so that we're able to address our violent crime issues, all the other challenges that exist for us in the world.
You were talking about how there are people behind these crimes. They're victims, but they're actually people. When you hear about this person, what do you think?
I've been saying for a while, and actually when I first became mayor, I wanted to write a letter to the family of every homicide victim. The challenge is that sometimes you don't get the information on the victim and all of that, and so we haven't done that yet. But because they are all people. And too often, and this does actually relate to the moment that we're in right now, too often lawyers, police officers, doctors, right? For an officer, you have someone who is a subject, an assailant. For a lawyer, right, someone who dies is known as a decedent, right? And for a physician, particularly if there's a dead person, right, you have a corpse. There is a story in each of those, right? There's a story in the decedent. Each one has this fascinating life, this family that's touched. I don't care who it is, right? I don't care if it's somebody who hasn't talked to their family for decades. There is so much there. And I think whether you're talking about a police officer who has his knee on the neck of someone, or it's somebody who's choosing to shoot up a house, if we saw the human that was on the other side of our actions more often, then I would think it would get us to think about it even longer. I'm as human as anybody else. I get angry. We all get angry. We all respond. That's how escalation starts to happen. De-escalation starts to happen when we say, wait a second, you are a real person. You have a family. You have a story. And the more we can tell those stories in Kansas City, the more we talk about the people that are impacted by these moments, the better our community will be and the safer our community will be.
This man was going to pick up a couple kids who had been protesting that night. Yeah. And he had a Jeep that was pretty cool. And he's stuck in traffic, and these men just walk up to him and shoot him. I mean, what do we do? How do we fix this? I mean, we can't fix this instance, but these crimes that just happen like this. I mean, there's no reason why this person should have died just sitting trying to get to a child.
He shouldn't have. And I think the biggest concern that I have sometimes is when our crime, all violence is awful, but when you get something so indiscriminate, right, where you just get something that is so bold in a way, right, in the middle of a place with people around, and you walk up and you shoot someone, you don't even think about it and the life that's there. It shows, in some ways, the despair that we've gotten to in our community. It shows, I think, the challenge that we have, and the challenge we have in changing what people see their fellow man as, right? Our Black Lives Matter movement isn't just about police misconduct, brutality, etc. It has to also be about everyone and getting everyone, including ourselves, to appreciate Black lives, to appreciate the stories behind them, to appreciate our community even more than we had and we'd ever thought about before. And I hope that the story that we have here of a man who has a family that's devastated, but who was doing something for others, was going to do something for others, was sharing his art with others, and will continue to after his death, tells us who we're really fighting for. We're fighting for people like him. We're fighting for people like his children. And I hope that we make real progress on that.
When you saw, well, do you remember this man from that day? You met a lot of people that day.
Yeah, I know.
Do you remember that interaction?
I do. And it was odd because it was distinctive. And to go back to that interaction, it was hot, and it was my first interaction with the crowd, and the police were still there, and the crowd, and they're shouting at each other like, come here. And I walked over, and it was organic. You know, we didn't set up the moment, but at the same time, all these people kind of end up around us. And I'm used to the TV people, but, you know, I saw some photographers I didn't recognize before who did look like they were there almost for the opportunity to catalog the moment for real. This wasn't for, you know, a photo to run on section A11 tomorrow in the paper. It was instead for someone to be able to share the narrative of just what happened, just what this experience was. And it is heartbreaking to have been so close to someone so recently and to have seen his life end that same night. It shouldn't be that way. And his family shouldn't have to be dealing with that.
He took one photo of you that is close up, and you're looking at the camera, and it's a very genuine and expressive photo.
Mm-hmm.
Did you talk to him? What was that moment for you?
So you always know if you're the subject of some photos that you're interacting, and I didn't talk to him, but particularly with a photographer, your photographer knows, right? Actually, you do have a lot of conversation with your eyes, your mannerisms. You freeze for a picture or a shot, right? I think in that one, I'm kind of caught in just a position like, all right, I guess this is going to be the way the picture is. And often they want that, right? Because that's fundamentally authentic. You didn't get to change kind of what you're doing or say, hey, wait, find me a small child or something, you know? Instead, it was somebody who's just trying to catch you in your element. And that speaks to the talent that he was as an artist. And I hope that as time goes on, his family's comfortable to share so many of these pieces of art, because in a way it is him speaking almost posthumously about not just his experience, but the experience we want out of this moment. This isn't about the tear gas. This isn't about interactions with officers. It's about people having a voice. And the photos he took showed people, particularly black people, having a voice, standing up and making a change. And we'll remember him positively for that. And I hope his family knows the great service that they were doing.
He had 4 kids, wife, and I met his wife today, and she said, I never, ever wanted for anything. He took care of everything. He was my lifeline. He was my best friend. I mean, his son was one of the most eloquent kids I've ever talked to in my life, and I've talked to a lot of kids through my work. I mean, what do you say to them? What message do you send to them today from your office?
Well, you know, I think you start by noting one's condolences, but more to the point, he got to do what he loved until the very end of his life. He was helping people. He was cataloging what's happening in our country and our city. He loved our city. He loved his people, all people. And what could be more impressive than that? When you talk about memories of a man, you talk about someone who got people to smile, right? He got people to be in their element. And he was somebody who never stopped fighting for change. You know, I hope to, saying that, I wish I was more like that. I wish more people were more like that. And they should be proud of the mentor and the example that he is to so many, that he was in life and that he will be for years to come.
What do you want to...
Sorry, I'm going to go for another meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say, Is there anything, my last question, anything you wanted to add that I haven't already asked you?
You know, our city has too many homicides. And I wish in some way that we thought about all the pain that we see in this situation, in each case, in each story, in each life. Probably a few months ago, I'm not a particularly emotional person, but I woke up in the middle of the night and was thinking about all the people who had died already in Kansas City, and it was probably February or so. So, God help us, maybe in the teens of people. And I thought about the fathers, the brothers, the mothers, the daughters, the spouses, and how heartbreaking is it when we see these lives that are cut short so early. I hope that wherever we go in our current moment in Kansas City and in our country, we don't forget about the fact that we need to make a world where these people can expect to live to old age as well, and where we don't have disproportionately African Americans that are learning that story of what it's like to have someone buried far before their time.